Hello everybody, this is Moshe Rothchild. We made Aliyah 11 years ago from Aventura, Florida. I was the rabbi of a shul. We are not originally Floridians, originally from New Jersey, West Orange, New Jersey. So if you're out there from New Jersey or Florida, we lived in Australia for a while, but 11 years ago in 2009, we made Aliyah to this amazing, amazing country. So here we are standing here in Efrat, and I am a tour guide. That's one of the two things I do here. I am also the head of a nonprofit that tries to build bridges between Israel and the rest of the world and those who love her. We do a lot of different things. It's called the Global Israel Alliance. So here we are standing in the amazing city of Efrat, and even though we might be separated by borders and by tens of thousands, by 10,000 miles and an ocean, but we are connected by hearts, we're connected by our souls, and so we are reaching out to you in this really challenging last few months. We're reaching out to you to give you this virtual hug, and that we're thinking about you, and so we wish you could be here, but if you can't, at least this is the second best thing. So we love you guys, and we hope that once again, the world jury can be united and you can come here freely in good health. So here we are in the town of Efrat. You know, in America, they have an area they call it the Bible Belt, right? Why do they call it that? Because you have a lot of fundamental Christians studying the Bible. You know, they call them the Bible thumpers, whatever you want to call it, the Bible Belt. Here, though, we actually live in the real Bible Belt. This is where the Bible, 90% of the stories from the Tanakh happen here. Of course, somewhere in outside the land, but most happen here. And if you want to even narrow it down further, so many of those stories happen just between Hebron, which is maybe about 12 miles south of here, and Jerusalem, which is around 5 miles to the edge of Jerusalem from where I'm standing right now. We are on, right, what was called the Derech Avot, the incredible ancient road that so many of our Avot and Imot, the foremothers traveled. We know the Maccabees traveled this road. Was it exactly here? Was it there? We don't know the exact spot. However, the Derech Avot, the path of the patriarchs, is right in this region, because we are on what's called the Gavahar, or the spine route of the country going from the south to the north. So for example, when it says Vayetze Yaakov mi Beersheva vayelech Harana, Jacob went from Beersheva in the south and traveled to Haran all the way up north, outside of the land, right? He had to travel right along this way. So right here in the city of Efrat, Efrat is mentioned in the Tanakh. Is this the exact spot? We don't know, but the book of Ruth, which we're going to be reading on Shavuot very soon, some of the stories take place very much in this region. There's actually a part here that there's a tradition that Ruth and Boaz had met. I can't tell you that that's true, but it's for sure somewhere in this region. So this is incredibly timely as Shavuot is coming up. Now, just south of us here, I said, is about 10, 12 miles, the city of Hebron. And if you travel from Hebron northwards, you come to the city of the town of Efrat on this side of the road. The other side of the road, you have Elazar. Elazar is named for one of the Maccabee brothers, the brother of Judah the Maccabee. One of the battles that the Maccabees fought took place there. We found elephant remains there. You have the town of Neve Daniel, named for a convoy that was attacked during the build-up to the War of Independence that was bringing supplies to this region. You have Alon Shvut, which means we've returned to the oak tree, which echoes the stories that took place here pre-state as well, and the battles that took place here in the great giant oak tree that was a symbol of this region. And when this region, Gush Etzion, fell just before the state of Israel was declared, for 19 years we were not allowed here because this was controlled, occupied by the Jordanians. When we returned here, so that town in 1967, when we returned here in the after the Six-Day War, and this region was developed again, right? So Alon Shvut got its name because we've returned to that oak. So you have Elazar, Neve Daniel, Alon Shvut, Efrat, and you have the kibbutzim, you have Kfar Etzion, where so many incredible stories take place. You have this is an incredibly rich region vis-a-vis the Tanakh, vis-a-vis modern Israeli history. So that's a little bit about where we are standing here. And I want to do a very, very short tour with you guys today. Like I said, I am a licensed tour guide here in the land of Israel. And because of Corona, I'm sitting home. So I'm enjoying this, having an opportunity to give you this virtual tour. We'll just 2 quick stops, and let's go. We're going to have a good time. Okay, we're back here standing in front of this incredible, well, I'm going to tell you what it is in a second, but before I do that, I just want to show you just behind me, this is my house. Not the first one you see here, but attached to it on the other side, this is my house. This is the new neighborhood of Efrat called the Dagan. We are the closest neighborhood to Jerusalem. Just behind us, but we're not going to pan that way, but in that direction, you have Bethlehem, and then you're already in Jerusalem. So like I said, we're on an incredibly historically, archaeologically, and religiously significant land. I mean, it's just incredible. So what is this in front of me? This giant, well, you're seeing like a square. Now, let's understand something. The second Beit HaMikdash, the second temple, was not built by King Herod. Let me make that clear. A lot of people that I guide believe that King Herod built the second Beit HaMikdash, the second temple. In fact, Herod was only alive for a very short period, and that was at the end of the second temple. Now, if you ask people when was the first Beit HaMikdash built, so everybody knows Solomon, King Shlomo HaMelech. Less people know who built the second one. If you sing on Hanukkah, Ma'os Tzur, and you sing all the paragraphs, one of them we say, Kates Bavel, the next word is Zerubbabel, right? The end of the Babylonian exile was Zerubbabel. Zerubbabel was the one who built the second Beit HaMikdash. So when it was built, right, it fell into a little bit of disrepair. King Herod, before the year 0, begins this massive project to refurbish the temple. And he refurbishes the Beit HaMikdash. It's so extraordinary that the Gemara, the Talmud says, if you have not seen the building of King Herod, you have never seen a beautiful building in your entire life. That is the extent of the praise that they offered King Herod. Now, I'm not going to talk about Herod because he is a bit of a complicated character, but one thing that occurred during the end of the Second Temple period is that you had an enormous influx of people that moved to Jerusalem, and the population grew. The temple, since it was now refurbished and much larger, right, required a lot more water. This new population required a lot more water. So they needed to find, King Herod needed to find new water sources to bring water to the Beit HaMikdash, to the temple. So what does he do? Of course, you're going to try to find the easiest route to bring water, and that route would, of course, would be from bringing water from a high point to a lower point. So when you looked around the neighboring hills around Jerusalem, Herod knew that in this area there were water sources, because there were other water sources that brought water to Jerusalem. But here he decides he's going to build a series of aqueducts and these large, deep shafts that would dig into the aquifer in order to find water and to bring it to Jerusalem. So let me be clear. This is what he does. There's, on the other side of Efrat, it literally it traverses the entire Efrat. On the other side of Efrat, in the Geffen neighborhood, there's a site called the Amat HaBiar. And that's the beginning where Herod finds water that is coming out from the ground. It's called a karstic cave. Water leaves the ground. But how are you going to get that to Jerusalem? So he digs underground tunnel. He digs an underground tunnel. He digs into the aquifer. Remember, that's like where the water is underground. And the water starts traveling underground. Okay, and he digs a tunnel. And then, let's say another 100, 200 meters, he'll then dig straight down, okay, and he'll connect with that underground tunnel, okay, and then they'll start digging again. and they'll continue with a series of tunnels, shafts, tunnels, shafts. Some of the underground water will come above ground into an aqueduct, which is basically an above ground channel that moves the water. So basically he moves the water approximately about 3 miles, which is on the other side of Efrat, all the way to, I'm going to show you in our next stop, to the hills of Bethlehem. And what does he do with the water there and how it gets to Jerusalem will be the second part of our story. But understand that this underground and above ground system, aqueducts, tunnels of bringing water, was an incredibly sophisticated system that exists nowhere else in the land of Israel. It was a technology that the Romans had learned from the Persians. Part of the underground tunnels, there's leakage from the underground water into the channels, and it would help fill it. There were springs that brought water to it. There was rainwater. And between all of that, where there was an enormous flow of water that he was able to access and to tap into, that would ultimately make its way up to the Beit HaMikdash, to the temple. Now this is incredible because there's one of these right here. And then if you go maybe about 100 yards, you can see where those trees, and there's like a shade protection from the sun. That's a park right there. In the middle of that park is another one of these. And if you continue walking, you will find these for the next 3 miles, including the above ground thing. This is in my backyard. The backyard of my house brought water to the Beit HaMikdash. That is an incredible thing. And we're very privileged to live here. Next time you come, you're all invited to my house. But I have to tell my wife first. Okay, so we're at our final stop on our short little tour, and that is the famous Solomon's Pools, or Brechot Shlomo. Now it's called that because tradition tells us that behind me, just here in the trees, are pools that was built by King Solomon, as mentioned in the book of Kohelet, where it says he built water pools to be able to service the trees that were in the area. However, the archaeologists disagree with that tradition and say King Solomon did not build these pools, but rather they're likely built during the Roman period. So in any event, so this is like the heart of Herod's water system. So he brings the Amara Biyar, like I said, starts about 3 miles south of here on the southern tip of Efrat, through a series of aqueducts and these underground tunnels. He brings the water all the way to here, to these, you can see in the opening of the trees there were 3 giant pools. Those pools gathered water from the Amara Biyar and from other sources, and I'm not going to get into those now, but let me explain. Those water sources here, the Solomon's Pools, gathered what would be equal to about 4 football fields of water. We're talking about 75 million gallons of water could be held here in the Solomon's Pools. That's an incredible thing. So basically, this was the heart of the system. Water was gathered from all around Gush Etzion, from Efrat, from the Amara Biyar, brought to here into these giant reservoirs. From here, there were 2 aqueducts that brought them from the Solomon's Pools. One went to the upper city of Jerusalem, what would be, say, the Jewish quarter today, and the other one brought it to the Beit HaMikdash, to the Temple Mount. Now, if you've been to Jerusalem, and you know those stairs that take you down from the Jewish quarter to the Western Wall, about halfway down, a little bit more, is actually wedged into the side. You can see what remains of a clay pipe that was part of this water system that brought the water from the Solomon's Pools to the Beit HaMikdash, to the temple. Now, this is an incredible feat. Remember, the height differential between the Amara Biyar and the Temple Mount, it's not huge. It's a very small height differential. This is an incredible engineering feat. And until 1967, yes, until 1967, water was brought from the Solomon's Pools, which are approximately 2,000 plus years old, to the old city of Jerusalem. It's an incredible thing. In 1924, the British, who were controlling this land under the British Mandate, refurbished the system, put in some pumps, but until 1967, this system was essentially in use. I don't know about you guys, but when I get things, especially if they're made overseas, Korea, China, it doesn't last very long, but this is an incredible feat. 2,000 years, this water system still works. So folks, that's about it for our little tour, and I hope you enjoyed. And like I said at the beginning, we might be separated by distance, but we're connected by hearts, we're connected with our souls, and wishing you all Chag Shavuot, Sameach Chag Bikurim, and hopefully we'll see you here in the land of Israel soon.